The day the sky went dark began without warning. At first, people thought it was a storm. Across Earth's continents, the sunlight dimmed as shadows stretched unnaturally long. But no storm carried such precision. The darkness was cast by something vast, deliberate, and alive. Billions craned their necks to the heavens, breath held as the impossible unfolded. Above the planet, a fleet the size of small continents locked into orbit. Their silhouettes were brutal, spikes, armored ridges, and latticework towers glowing with alien energy. The world's satellites were blinded in seconds, fried by targeted pulses. Communication lines died. In less than an hour, humanity was mute beneath an unfamiliar sky. Captain Elias Ward stood in the command center of Geneva's United Earth Defense Complex, his eyes fixed on the display wall. His voice was low but firm. "Confirm, how many ships?" The analyst's hands shook as she read from her console. 73 confirmed capital vessels. Hundreds of escorts. We've never seen numbers like this. Elias pressed a hand against the table, grounding himself. 42 years old, a veteran of Earth's last global war, he had seen destruction before, but never inevitability. His sharp features were grim, his eyes carrying the weight of decisions no one else dared make. The main screen flickered, and then the alien voice arrived. It did not come in broken fragments or coded attempts at translation. It came in flawless English, broadcast across every device not yet destroyed. "This world now belongs to the Dominion. Surrender your fleets. Yield your territories. Obedience will spare you." The words rolled like thunder, calm and merciless. An image appeared, Overlord Kareth, Supreme Commander of the Dominion Fleet. His towering form was reptilian yet regal, armored in black plating etched with alien runes. His gaze radiated superiority, as though addressing livestock rather than equals. The World Council chamber erupted in panic. Delegates from Earth's nations argued, voices rising. Some demanded immediate surrender, citing survival. Others shouted for resistance. Fear pulsed through the chamber like a living force. Elias remained silent. He studied Kareth's eyes on the screen. Cold. Certain. The eyes of a conqueror who had done this 100 times before. A senator finally slammed his hand on the table. "We cannot win! Look at them! If resistance means extinction, what choice do we have?" Elias spoke then, his voice carrying above the chaos. "The choice," he said, "is whether humanity kneels, or whether humanity fights." The room stilled. Elias turned, facing the council. "Yes, their numbers dwarf ours. Their weapons cut deeper than ours. But if we surrender, we die as slaves, not as people. If we fight, we show them who we are." The French delegate shook his head. "You would gamble the species on pride?" "No," Elias answered. "On defiance. On survival through resistance. We adapt, we improvise, we endure. That is what makes us human." The debate raged on, but Elias knew the council would waver. Politicians weighed survival against honor. They feared annihilation more than chains. And yet, he could feel the soldiers in the room, those who had seen combat, lean toward him. Soldiers recognized the truth: some battles must be fought, regardless of odds. Suddenly, the alien transmission returned. Kareth leaned forward, as if amused by their hesitation. "You will not resist. You cannot! Worlds stronger than yours have bent the knee. Choose swiftly, before we demonstrate your insignificance." The chamber fell silent. No one spoke. Fear was thick enough to choke. Elias made his decision. He walked to the central console and pressed the calm override. His heart hammered, but his face remained carved from steel. The entire world, and the Dominion beyond, would hear his words. "This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth. You think us weak. You think us prey. But you will learn what it means to face humanity." His voice sharpened, echoing into every ear. "You want war? We'll give you war." The council erupted in uproar. Some screamed in horror, others in awe. But it was too late. The words had left Earth and crossed the void. Karetha's image did not flicker. He simply smiled, thin and cold. Then war is granted. The transmission cut. Silence fell in the chamber, but outside, the first Dominion ships shifted formation. Their fleets moved like blades being drawn from sheaths. Humanity's war had begun. In Geneva, Elias stood at the command table as alarms began to shriek. Officers scrambled for orders. Generals barked updates. Earth's defense grid powered up, a patchwork of orbital cannons, lunar platforms, and hastily armed colonies. Outmatched, underpowered, but not idle. Elias took command without hesitation. Prioritize Luna and Mars. Civilians first. Arm every defense array we have. Sir? One officer asked. What if they overwhelm us in the first strike? Elias's answer was simple. Then we make them bleed. Even as he spoke, images flooded in, ships darkening the Martian sky, their shadows stretching across crimson deserts. Luna's domes shaking under orbital bombardments. Earth's cities staring upward as alien engines hummed. The fear was vast. But so was the anger. Across the planet, Elias's words repeated, carried through hacked transmissions, whispered in streets, shouted in barracks. Soldiers and civilians alike found something in them, something raw, defiant, and undeniably human. Elias stood at the heart of the storm, his mind already racing through possibilities. They could not outgun the Dominion. They could not outnumber them. But humanity had one weapon the Zoric each had not accounted for, the will to resist at any cost. As the first salvos lit the void above Earth, Elias whispered to himself, unheard by anyone but the hum of the consoles. They'll remember us. No matter what comes, they'll remember. And with that, the war began. The first clash came 3 days after the declaration. Earth's skies burned with streaks of fire as Dominion warships descended into low orbit, their engines roaring like thunder across continents. They moved with calculated menace, as if to remind humanity of their helplessness. Yet instead of surrender, they found resistance, thin, fragile, but unyielding. Captain Elias Ward watched from the bridge of the U.S. Resolute, the largest vessel humanity could muster. A cruiser by human standards, it was barely a corvette compared to the Dominion's Leviathans. Still, it bore Earth's flag with pride, its crew bracing for the impossible. Status of the Martian defense grid? Elias asked, his voice calm despite the storm swelling inside him. The calm officer's reply was grim. The grid's gone, sir. Dominion ships blasted through in less than an hour. Colonists are evacuating underground, but surface installations are lost. Elias's jaw tightened. Mars had been humanity's symbol of expansion, a second home carved from dust and steel. Now it was the Dominion's warning shot. Luna? He pressed. Still holding, the officer said. Barely. Orbital batteries are firing nonstop. Casualties climbing. The crew listened, silent, each face carved with fear and determination. They all knew what was coming next. Then Earth is next, Elias said, more to himself than to them. And we'll be ready. The Dominion's first assault was merciless. Overlord Kareth directed the fleet from his throne-like command deck, eyes fixed on the blue sphere below. His lieutenants spoke of swift subjugation, but Kareth shook his head. Humans are stubborn creatures, he said. They defied when others surrendered. Their spirit must be crushed utterly. Make an example of their moon. Obediently, Dominion cruisers poured fire onto Luna. White domes cracked open, air venting into space. Soldiers and civilians alike fought desperately, some firing rifles uselessly at warships, others sealing breaches with their bare hands. Every death was a spark that spread rage across Earth. On the Resolute, alarms screamed as Dominion scouts closed in. 3 frigates on approach, the tactical officer shouted. They're testing our line. Let them, Elias replied. Helm, prepare evasive maneuvers. Weapons, target their lead ship. Make them think we're weaker than we are. The bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances, but obeyed. The Resolute banked sharply, its smaller frame darting away from the Dominion formation. The alien frigates pursued, hungry for the kill. Elias leaned over the tactical map. Now, cut engines. Rotate 90 degrees. Fire everything we've got at the leader's engines. The crew executed instantly. The Resolute swung, guns blazing. The sudden burst caught the Dominion frigate off guard. Explosions tore through its rear, sending it spiraling out of control. Cheers erupted on the bridge, brief but fierce. Elias allowed the moment, then cut it short. Don't celebrate yet. They'll be back, with more. As if summoned by his words, larger blips appeared on the radar. Dominion cruisers. The battle unfolded in brutal rhythm. Earth's fleet scattered across orbit, outmatched in tonnage and firepower. Human ships fought in wolf packs, striking and retreating before overwhelming force crushed them. Losses mounted fast. Entire squadrons blinked out of existence. Elias coordinated like a conductor, his voice steady, his orders sharp. He knew they could not win outright. The goal was survival, and pain. Every Dominion ship damaged, every soldier lost, was proof humanity would not kneel. At one point, the Resolute took a glancing hit. Consoles sparked, smoke filled the bridge. A young ensign cried out, her arm burned. Elias helped her up himself, his expression fierce. Stay on your feet, he told her. They want us broken. Don't give them the satisfaction. Meanwhile, Kareth watched the resistance with growing irritation. He had expected terror, easy capitulation. Instead, these humans clawed at his ships like cornered beasts. They fought without logic, using chaotic maneuvers no Dominion strategist would ever consider. Primitive, but dangerous, Kareth admitted. A fire that refuses to die. Very well, we will smother it completely. He ordered the full fleet to advance. Elias knew the next wave would be decisive. He gathered his senior officers in the dimly lit war room. Their faces were exhausted, smeared with ash, but their eyes were alive. We can't beat them ship for ship, Elias began. But we can outthink them. They expect us to retreat. We won't. We'll ambush them instead. How? Asked Commander Varga, his second in command. Elias tapped the holomap, highlighting an asteroid cluster near Earth's orbit. We lure them through here. Plant every mine, every drone, every scrap of ordnance we've got. Then we hit them from all sides. It's a gamble, Varga warned. Elias met his gaze. So is survival. The officers nodded. They had no better choice. The trap was set within hours. Dominion cruisers, overconfident, pursued Earth's battered ships into the asteroid belt. At first, it seemed another slaughter. Human vessels retreating, Dominion firepower tearing chunks from asteroids. Then the mines detonated. Explosions rippled through the cluster, rocks shattering into deadly shrapnel. Hidden drones emerged, swarming like hornets. Human ships turned, striking from concealment. The Dominion fleet reeled. One cruiser's hull cracked, flames venting into space. Another was crippled, engines sputtering. On the Resolute, the bridge shook as they joined the fray. Target the flagship's support craft, Elias barked. Cut them off. Missiles streaked across the void, tearing into escorts. Dominion formations wavered. For the first time, humanity stood not as prey but as hunters. The battle raged for hours, and still the Dominion pressed. But when one of their capital ships erupted in a fireball, visible from Earth's surface, the tide shifted. Across the planet, people saw the explosion and roared with hope. On Karetha's bridge, silence fell. His subordinates avoided his gaze, knowing the cost of failure. The Overlord's hands curled into fists. Unacceptable, he hissed. They will pay for this insult. Double the bombardments. Burn their cities until nothing remains. Back on Earth, the Council reconvened, panic thick in the air. Some argued that provoking the Dominion further was suicide. Others whispered of hope. Elias stood among them, smoke still on his uniform, eyes blazing. You saw it, he said. They can bleed. And if they can bleed, we can make them fall. Every man, woman, and child must fight. Not for victory, but for survival. A young delegate asked softly, And if we lose? Elias looked around the chamber, his voice unwavering. Then we lose as humans. Standing. The words spread like fire. Across Earth, recruits flooded bases. Engineers repurposed factories. Hackers attacked Dominion systems. Humanity united not by orders, but by choice. For the first time, Kareth realized he faced something he had never encountered, a species unwilling to surrender, no matter the cost. As the Resolute drifted back into orbit, battered but unbroken, Elias stood at the viewport. The stars burned cold above, scattered across the dark. "We've lit the fire," he murmured. "Now we keep it burning." The war had only begun, but humanity had drawn blood. The wreck of the Dominion cruiser still glowed in orbit, its shattered hull casting a fiery trail across the void. For Earth, it was a beacon of hope. For the Dominion, it was an insult that demanded retribution. Overlord Kareth paced his command deck, each step reverberating like a drumbeat of fury. His lieutenants waited in silence, their fear palpable. He stopped at the viewport, watching the blue planet below. "These humans," Kareth growled, "dare to wound the Dominion. They mistake defiance for strength. We will show them what war truly means." Orders followed. Unleash the planet crackers. Weapons capable of tearing continents apart were moved into position. On Earth, Captain Elias Ward stood in the underground war chamber, its walls vibrating with distant impacts. Sirens howled overhead as orbital bombardments struck cities. Entire skylines burned. The war was no longer confined to space, it had descended upon the ground. A map displayed casualty zones: New Delhi, Rio, Johannesburg, all scarred with destruction. Yet reports flowed in of militias rising, of civilians refusing evacuation to keep fighting. Humanity was bloodied, but unbroken. Elias leaned over the table, his voice steel. "We can't match them weapon for weapon. But their strength is also their weakness. They believe only in power. We'll use that against them." Commander Varga frowned. "How?" "By turning their own weapon back on them," Elias said. His finger tapped the map where Dominion planet crackers orbited. "If we seize control of one, we can strike their fleet." A heavy silence followed. The idea was mad. The weapons were colossal, guarded by entire squadrons. Yet every officer at the table felt the same truth: madness might be their only chance. The operation began with a stolen spark. Hackers from shattered cities linked across continents, launching a digital assault on Dominion networks. Their goal wasn't victory, but distraction. Kareth's systems reeled from swarms of false signals, giving Earth's fleet a narrow window. The Resolute, battered but repaired, spearheaded the assault. Elias stood at its helm once more, gaze fixed forward. "This is it," he told his crew. "One strike. One chance." The plan: punch through the Dominion escort line, board the planet cracker, and override its core. A suicide mission in all but name. The battle erupted with fury. Human ships streaked forward in ragged formation, flanking and feinting like wolves against lions. Dominion cannons fired relentlessly, tearing ships apart. Yet each sacrifice opened a path. On the Resolute, the deck trembled as near misses scraped their hull. Sparks rained from consoles. "Shields failing!" someone shouted. "Hold course," Elias ordered. His voice was steady, anchoring the crew. Through the viewport, the target loomed, a massive warship shaped like a spear, its central weapon glowing with unstable energy. The planet cracker. "Boarding teams ready?" Elias asked. Commander Varga nodded. "They know what's at stake." Elias took a breath. "Then let's give humanity its shot." The Resolute rammed through the Dominion screen, guns blazing. Fighters swarmed, but Earth's ships bought the moment with blood. Docking clamps latched, and boarding pods fired like harpoons. Inside the alien vessel, corridors twisted with harsh light and humming conduits. Elias led the strike team himself, rifle in hand. Zoritich soldiers surged to meet them, towering reptilian warriors clad in segmented armor. The clash was brutal. Gunfire echoed through the halls, grenades flashing. Humans fell, but kept advancing, driven by desperation. Varga covered Elias as they stormed the command chamber. Alien officers hissed and drew weapons, but the humans struck first. At the core console, Elias tore off his helmet, sweat streaming. "Can we override it?" A young tech, bloodied but unbroken, scrambled to the controls. "Their systems are alien, but give me a minute." "We don't have a minute," Varga snapped, firing into a doorway where soldiers pressed in. The tech's fingers flew across the interface, bypassing locks. Alarms screamed in alien tones. The ship trembled as Dominion captains realized what was happening. "Done!" the tech shouted. "We have control!" Elias seized the comm his voice carried through every human channel. "All ships clear the blast zone. We're turning their own weapon against them." On his flagship, Karetha's eyes widened as he saw the energy signature spike. The humans had done the unthinkable, seized a Dominion superweapon. "Fire on them!" he roared. "Destroy it before they—" The words were cut short as the planet cracker fired. A lance of pure annihilation tore through space, striking a Dominion capital ship. The vessel split apart in a blinding explosion, shockwaves scattering escorts. Another blast followed, and another. The Dominion fleet reeled. Ships that had seemed invincible moments ago now died under their own weapon. On Earth, billions watched the sky erupt in fire. For the first time, they saw the Dominion falter. Hope roared across the planet louder than any bombardment. But victory came at a price. Dominion reinforcements swarmed the captured weapon, overwhelming its defenses. Elias knew they couldn't hold it. "Varga," he said quietly, "prepare evacuation." "We'll never make it out," Varga replied. Elias glanced at the trembling core, energy building to unstable levels. "Then we make sure they don't either." He opened a private channel. "This is Ward. The weapon is compromised. We're overloading the core. When it blows, their fleet goes with it." Silence answered, then voices broke through, soldiers, civilians, commanders. They all understood. They all stood with him. On the Dominion flagship, Kareth realized too late. The humans weren't trying to win, they were trying to deny him victory entirely. "No," he whispered, as the planet cracker erupted in a sunbright explosion. The shockwave consumed everything in its radius. Dominion warships shattered, fire rolling across the void. When the light faded, silence reigned. Half the Dominion fleet was gone. The rest fled broken, humiliated. On Earth, battered survivors raised their voices in triumph. Humanity had not just resisted, it had struck back. In the aftermath, Elias stood aboard the crippled Resolute. Against all odds, he had survived, though many had not. His uniform was scorched, his face lined with exhaustion. He activated the comm one final time, addressing the Dominion remnants still within range. "You wanted war," he said, voice carrying the weight of a world behind it. "Now you know what it means to fight humans." The line cut. Silence followed. Earth burned, scarred but unbroken. Cities lay in ruins, but people rebuilt. Engineers worked tirelessly, soldiers trained harder, and children whispered Elias's words like a promise. The Dominion would return. Karetha's kind never forgot defeat. But when they did, they would not find prey. They would find a species forged by fire, united by defiance. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, not as slaves, but as warriors. And they would never kneel.